Good evening and welcome to Legal Talk, the talk show brought to you by the law offices of O'Donnell, Weiss, and Mattei. We're located at 41 High Street in Pottstown. We're also at 347 Bridge Street in Phoenixville. Our phone numbers, write them down, 610-917-9347 or 323-2800. And finally, our website, which is, we're taping this show in the spring of 2010. Our website's all brand new. It's been just done over again. It's www.owmlaw.com. So please jump on our website and learn more about our firm. My name's David McGay. I'm an attorney with the firm. And tonight I'm joined by one of our other attorneys, Victoria Hollister. Victoria, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Now, folks, Victoria, tonight we're going to talk about support issues, mostly child support. Victoria's been with the firm for a couple years now. Her practice is focused on family law issues, divorce, custody, support, child support, and spousal support. Tonight, Victoria and I are going to talk about, and here we are taping this show in the spring of 2010, we're going to talk about what we call the support guidelines. Victoria, that's what they're called,
right.
Support guidelines. Mm-hmm. And this is how the courts and domestic relations offices of each county determine how child support's calculated. So, folks, if you're in the middle of a child support matter, you're collecting child support, paying child support, please listen closely because you're going to want to talk to your attorney after this show tonight about having your support case reviewed.
Right.
Okay. Now, Victoria, let's first start talking about, before we jump into child support, let's talk about spousal support just for a couple of minutes. Generally, would you let the viewers know what is spousal support, how does that work, and some recent changes that you've seen in the law in the spring here of 2010?
Well, spousal support, as the name indicates, is support for one spouse for the other. Mm-hmm. And generally, spousal support is calculated by, if there are no children involved, by the difference in the parties' net incomes. 40% of that difference goes to the spouse mm-hmm. who requires support. Now, what happens sometimes in these cases is that parties may be married a very short time, 3 months, 6 months, mm-hmm. in any case less than a year. But as soon as they separate, the dependent spouse would be eligible to get spousal support.
Okay, so let me interrupt you there. Let's say you and I are married for 6 months. I move out. You make more than I do. I can get spousal support from you. They look at your income, mm-hmm. your monthly net income, which is your gross minus your tax withholding.
Taxes, right.
Minus my monthly net income times 40%. And that's what I can collect from you, spousal support-wise.
Right.
Now, I know where you're going with your thought there, your thought process. I separate, we're married for 6 months. I leave. How long can I collect that spousal support from you?
Well, technically, until the divorce is final. Support must end at the time of the divorce. Now, if there is support per se that's paid after the divorce, then it's termed alimony.
Okay, that's a whole
and that's a whole different subject, right?
Okay.
But the problem with the spousal support is that in these short marriages, sometimes the one party can end up collecting spousal support for quite a long time.
Okay, so back to my example, I can collect spousal support from you. We've been together for 6 months. I can drag the divorce out for, I know it's at least 2, maybe even 3 years nowadays.
Yeah, at least 2 years.
So how fair is that we're together for 6 months and I could collect spousal support from you for 2-3 years while we're litigating the divorce?
Right.
So what's motivating me to negotiate fairly in the divorce?
Right, and that's, yeah, exactly, and that's been one of the problems, and that's why this change has come about. Now, it used to be that the person who was hearing the case could make some deviation or kind of take a look at all the circumstances, but now it's required that the trier of fact, whoever that person is, generally it's a master, must consider the length of the marriage in relation to the length of the support, how long the support. And
I realize this is new law coming down this spring, so we're going to, who knows how they're going to handle it. But I'm hearing, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the trier, in other words, the domestic relations officer, can say, well, look, David, you've been married to Victoria for 6 months. You're going to collect spousal. If you wanted to, you can collect it for 2-3 years. I tell you what, you were together 6 months. You're otherwise working, Dave. You can collect spousal for 6 months, and then it stops. Something like that will probably be happening.
I think so, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, Dave, if you want to drag Victoria through the mud with the divorce and drag it out as long as you want, go ahead, more power to you. But you're not going to bleed her dry support-wise while you're doing that.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what happens, and often in these cases then when the parties do finally get to equitable distribution or, dividing up the marital assets, there's really nothing there to give credit to that spouse who has been paying support all that time.
Okay.
And also that's something that's generally not even considered in equitable distribution. So our legislature has seen fit to make rule changes that address that problem.
Good. Okay. So, folks or viewers, if you're paying spousal support, consider what Victoria just had to say and give us a call or call your attorney and talk to them about these new laws coming down as far as maybe perhaps even changing your spousal support obligation. Now, for the rest of this first half as well as the second half of our show, Victoria, let's talk about support guidelines. Again, we're taping this show in the spring of 2010. There's a new law going into effect when?
May 12th.
Of 2010.
2010. Right.
Which changed the support guidelines we talked about?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Tell us about the support guidelines. I remember, I go back into the mid-'80s when each county had their own little formula. You may remember that too.
Yes.
On how to determine child support. Some of them had a grid, some of them had a formula. I think I remember Berks County, I think, actually just kind of made it up as they went along, it seemed like. But anyway, what do we have now? I think mid-'80s or 89-ish is state promulgated those guidelines. State
guidelines, yes. So that, and the purpose, of course, is so that everyone is treated the same. Similarly situated people will be treated the same.
Whether we live in Allegheny County or Philadelphia County, Erie, or wherever.
Exactly, yes. They're the Pennsylvania state guidelines.
Okay.
And basically, they provide all the rules and formulas which you need to calculate. And we did talk about spousal support, which is just a percentage. But for child support, there are grids that go through the income of the parents. It's all income-driven as opposed to needs-driven.
Okay, or bills. Like I have 3 car loans and a big mortgage. I can't afford to pay child support. Tough.
Right.
You pay child support first.
Right.
Okay.
And it's based on what your income is. And you are expected then to adjust your standard of living as you may have to because child support is a primary obligation.
Okay.
So the guidelines take into account then, how many children there are, the combined incomes of the parties, and what they do is called an income shares model, and it's used by actually 37 of the states. They use economic data that looks at what an intact family would spend basically for their children, given what their combined incomes are.
If they were together. Okay,
right.
With that tease, we're running up against the break here. On the second half of the show, folks, we're going to talk in more detail about the new changes to the support guidelines and why you should call your attorney as soon as the show's over and have he or she talk to you about them and review your present support orders. So, folks, David McGay and Victoria Hollister of O'Donnell, Weiss and Mattei, you've been watching Legal Talk. Please stay tuned for the second half. Thank you.